right with healing.
Okay, well, we're live now. Every week that happens to us. Yes, Linda, we are live. We are 1 minute late because we had to take care of our daughter really quick. But we're excited to see so many of you joining us already. I forgot to mute it over here. There we go. And let's see here. I just go ahead and say hello to a few of our early comers. We have Jenna with us, Linda, we have Brittany, and Shayla, CD, Haley, and Joseph. He's asking about plateaus. Plateaus, just that feeling of I'm not making progress anymore. And that's going to be kind of the overarching theme tonight. And tonight we're actually going to be going over a lot of different challenges that many of us face when it comes to learning a new language, particularly ASL. And it can be a really difficult thing to do to really reach that point where you feel confident and fluent. And it's a long road. And for any of us that have been learning for more than a few months, we've probably experienced that feeling of I'm not making any progress anymore, or getting bored, or it losing its novelty, or just having any kind of struggles. So we'll be talking about that more specifically, but if you have something else that you've been having a hard time with when it comes to learning sign language, please let us know in the comments, and we'll go ahead and see if we can address some of those things, because it's definitely worth it to learn sign language, and it's definitely hard. So we have a lot of kind of tips and tricks that we can share with you to make that process easier. And earlier on YouTube, I did a poll as far as what was some of the biggest challenges that you've been facing, and I asked 5 things. The number 1 was finding somebody to practice with. Number 2 was remembering what you learned. Number 3 was staying motivated. And then tied for last are grammar and not having enough time. And so hopefully we have enough time to kind of cover all of those aspects. But again, let us know, what is it that you personally have been having a hard time with? Has learning ASL or learning a new language been difficult for you? If so, what's been the hardest part for you? So let's go ahead and, we are going to be doing another giveaway tonight, regardless of or not we hit the 50 likes. We'll be giving away one free 30-day course to somebody in the comments. So feel free to comment away throughout this live stream. The more you comment, the higher your opportunity is to win. If we do hit 50 likes, then we'll go ahead and give it away to a second person too. So definitely looking forward to this evening and getting a chance to really meet and have this opportunity to talk with everybody. So let's see here. I was all set to try an ASL Meetup group, and then COVID hit. Yeah, and this is one of the things that really prompted us or inspired us to try to create a place, a safe environment for others to kind of come together and find others that are at their similar skill level, and to be able to get that practice in and to network with other people. And so that's something that we do on a weekly basis. We've been doing it since COVID has hit. So that's something that you can join for free if you are interested in that. We do it every Wednesday, 5 o'clock every evening Pacific time. And if you'd like to join that, just sign up for our newsletters. It's a free way to get that Zoom link and the password and everything. And we usually have about 40 to 50 people join us every week. And so we'll create breakout rooms. So you'll have a room of 3 or 4 people, people that are at a similar skill level as you, to practice with. And it can really make a huge difference just to have the opportunity to network and to meet with other people. Real quick, how do you sign already? Finished or already? Let's see here. Taylor's asking, how do you get the link for the Wednesday Zoom call? So I send out the link to everybody that supports us via the channel or Patreon or on the website with Beyond the Basics. But we also send that Zoom link out for free through our newsletters. And you can, there's a link in the description down below if you'd like to sign up for that as well. Squirt KDW is saying the group practices have been so helpful. I've been going since May and I've grown so much. That's great. And we hear that story over and over again, and how impactful and how big of a difference it can make to just meet other like-minded people and to be able to get that practice in. It really is instrumental. If you want to get better at learning the new language, you need to be using that new language. You want to get better at conversations, you need to have more conversations. So that's a great avenue to do. Let's see here. And again, these comments go by pretty quick. So if we miss a comment or a question, feel free to go ahead and ask us multiple times, and we'll try to get to you as quickly as possible. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and go into going through plateaus. And so first, why might we be experiencing a plateau? And when I say plateau, I just basically mean that feeling of I'm not making progress anymore. And it can be a really discouraging time in the language learning process. And secondly, and more importantly, how can I push past through those plateaus? And so I'll go over three main ones that come up. So the first one is that feeling of a lack of progress. And maybe we've been learning for a few months, and over that course of time, it feels like we're not learning as fast as we used to. And it just feels like we're kind of stuck in a rut, or we're not able to kind of reach the next level. So the first thing is how to overcome that is first pause and take a moment and realize how far you've actually come. Let's just say, for example, you've been learning for 6 months. And for the first few weeks, that progress is really noticeable because you're starting from zero in most cases, right? And if a week goes by and you've learned 100 new words or 100 new signs, then that progress is very clear and very measurable. And maybe you've learned another 100 signs the next week, and then maybe you learn another 100 signs. But after 6 months and you've learned hundreds and hundreds of signs, it's hard to notice that progress. Even if you're still keeping at the same pace and you're continually adding to your vocabulary and to your lexicon, it feels like the progress isn't there. And when you go from 0 to 100, it's really obvious how much progress you've made. But when you go from like 2,000 to 2,100, it's hard to tell the difference. And so one of the things is, take a moment, pause, and really take a moment and appreciate how much progress you've made, not just since last week, but maybe since you've started. How far have you come from 6 months ago, or maybe a year ago? And more than likely, that's a lot of progress. And so we kind of have to just be patient with ourselves. And I'm just kind of going through the comments before I move on to the second point. Suzanne's saying, what a fantastic idea it is to have a group practice. Absolutely. And I know many others have actually taken that upon themselves too, and have formed like Zoom groups and practice groups that meet more regularly. And the more involved you can get with that, the faster you're going to make that progress. Let's see here. Taylor was saying practicing with Linda was fun, and we actually just had a Zoom practice just before we went live tonight, and we'll be doing another one possibly next week. Depends.
No, not next week.
Well, were we going to do a vote?
I'm voting for we're going to vote for the 30th, not the one for Christmas.
You're right. You're right.
So
I'm getting ahead of myself. Go ahead.
We're going to do a poll because we're going to be the 23rd. So next week we will not have the Zoom practice sessions, nor will we have the YouTube live. A lot's going on, with everybody. We know everybody's going to be busy, holidays and things like that. We know. So we're like, it's okay. We're going to pause it. But for the 30th, that's pushing it close to New Year's. And again, some people are busy and stuff. So what we're going to do is take a poll for that and ask you guys, what would you like for us to do? Would you like for us to have the group practice session and the YouTube live, or would you like to postpone it and be like, no, I'm good. We're going to be busy and stuff. So go ahead in the comments, let us know which one you like. Very simple. You can just say yes or no. And that means, yes, we do want to have the Zoom practice and the YouTube live, or no, we don't. And then we're going to kind of get a general idea of how everybody's feeling. And then we're going to go from there. Another thing too, to let you guys know before we get ahead of ourselves, is on January 6th, we will not be doing a YouTube live because on January 4th, this one's having surgery done. And so he's going to be in another room. We will have the Zoom practice session, but we're not going to do the YouTube live because that's not something I can do alone. I can't control all this by myself. So that day, January 6th, we will not be here live because of his surgery date. So just letting you guys know, if you're like, hey, it's the 6th, where's everybody? Okay, we won't be here, but we will be there for the Zoom practice. That I can set you guys up for, but it's just the YouTube live that we will not be here for that. But I think that's it. So yeah, we'll go ahead and let you guys keep, getting. I know it's like all unanimous. Yes. I'm like, then I have a feeling we'll most likely be here on the 30th. Then it seems to be pretty unanimous that everybody wants us to be here on the 30th for the Zoom practice sessions and also for the YouTube live. So then that'll work out. So that way it's not like 3 weeks with you guys not having anything, because that'd be terrible. So okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to read that comment. But
sorry.
There we go.
So I really want to learn sign language, but it's really hard when you're full of homework, and that takes up most of your time.
And it's true. It's hard because when you have other things, it can kind of take up, there's a priority. And so sometimes learning another language kind of gets put on the back burner. But if you can just take 5 minutes, 10 minutes a day, that's okay. It doesn't have to, you don't have to dedicate this boom amount of time to learning it. When you're able to. Oh, I gotta take that phone call.
Okay. Guess I'm alone. But yeah, actually, that's something that is really important, is to be able to just take advantage of sometimes it's referred to as dead time. And I'll just give you a little story. So like about 2-3 years ago, we were just really busy. Both worked full time, and we're both going to college full time. We recently became parents, so our daughter was maybe just a few months old. And I had set up a goal for myself to read 100 books that year, and I ended up reading 96 books. And the way that I was able to do that, even though like it was busy and I didn't think I had enough time, was just taking advantage of all of the just different moments throughout the day. Like if you're just standing in line, or you're just have just a few seconds to kill, or you just have a little bit of dead time that you can just take advantage of, and just go ahead and do that. So for learning a new language, if you have just a few minutes, that can be enough, and that actually adds up over time. And so don't dismiss, oh, it was only 5 minutes, or you know what, I don't have enough time. Just go ahead and take advantage of all the time you have, and you'll be surprised at how much you can accomplish. More yeses for the 30th. You're welcome, Brittany. Barbara says, I study things when I brush my teeth. That's a great strategy. And you'd be surprised like how much time you can actually take advantage of. And also one other like really important thing that you can do is keep track of the time that you spend. So it doesn't have to be for like an entire month and like meticulously taking note of everything you do for every minute of the day. But if you can just kind of get an idea of where your time is being spent, you might be surprised how much time we actually spend just watching TV, or maybe playing games on our phone or something like that. And so just kind of being able to have that data to analyze, and we can actually retweak it and maybe just make some adjustments, and can make more time for ourselves. Definitely yes. Let's see here. There was a comment that I wanted to get to. Hey, Susan was saying there is a deaf girl in the high school I work at, and we got to chat today, and it was awesome. Very cool, Suzanne. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and go to the second point that I wanted to discuss today, and that's going to be kind of a lack of confidence. And when we're in that learning plateau and it feels like we're not making progress, and it just feels like you can't have the conversations that you want to, right? Like sometimes we just get depressed and feel like we can't say exactly what we want. Just because we only know maybe 80% of the sentence that we want. And so then what happens is we decide, well, I can't say 100% of what I want, so I'll just say nothing. And so that can kind of be the trap of perfectionism. And that can actually really be a negative thing, right? And when we really strive for perfection, that's going to really hurt us because really we're never going to be perfect. And even if, you know, say for example, English is your native language, that means you're still not perfect, right? Like I'm in my mid-30s and English is my first language, and I still make mistakes, and sometimes I still can't say exactly what I want. But when you can try to be okay with not being perfect, that can really help a lot. And just being okay with not being perfect and not being right all the time. And really, like if we think about how children learn languages, you know, they never are afraid of being like judged or saying the wrong thing. They just go for it, right? And that's one of the reasons why children are so effective at learning new languages, and sometimes even many languages simultaneously. Really amazing. And the brain is capable of so much. We just kind of have to allow it to make the mistakes in order for us to learn from them. And really, sometimes mistakes are our best teachers. Okay, just going through the comments again. Wait, people spend time off of their phones? Just a few things that have been helping you. Feel free to offer suggestions, but let's see here. Suzanne was saying that I signed to myself, like talking to yourself out loud. It helps. And this is actually something that polyglots will do as well, is that they'll go ahead and kind of talk to themselves and have conversations with themselves. Recently, I was interviewing Juliana Russell, and she speaks 4 languages, and like she was learning, I think it was, I forgot the sign for, I think it's Swedish, but she would just have conversations with her cat. And so like a lot of people that learn many languages, they'll do that. They'll have conversations with themselves or maybe with their pets, cats, dogs, whatever. And that, again, it's just that practice, right? Like if we don't use it, then we're not going to have that kind of progress that we want to see in ourselves. Let's see here. Leslie is saying that was a big hurdle for me, but the group chats actually helped a lot. People are really kind and patient, and that helped build my confidence. That's great. And I tell people this all the time. If you want to become more skilled in conversations, then you need to have more conversations. Maybe you've heard of the 10,000 hour rule, but really the premise is if you spend enough time, and you know, let's say for example it's 10,000 hours, and it's around 8 hours every day for 5 years is about what that equates to. But you can become like skilled, like as a professional in that task, that job, or that language, right? So if we just kind of deprive of ourselves that time, then it's going to really hurt our progress in the long run. I'll have to try signing to my dog. And actually, we've had dogs in the past that we've actually taught sign language to. You know, sit and stay, and you know, different signs. And you know, the pets, like dogs, they'll understand the signs. And it's, you could probably find like different YouTube videos of like pets and signing. But yeah, that's definitely a good way to go ahead and, you know, have more time to practice. Let's see here. Great attitude, Leslie. And the more mistakes I make in the group chats, the more vocabulary I learn. Absolutely. And sometimes when we're just getting started too, it's hard to know what you want to learn next when you're not having those conversations, right? If we're just, you know, sitting at a computer and, you know, maybe we're looking up vocabulary, sometimes we're just kind of randomly picking words or picking phrases, and it can be hard to really learn the vocabulary and the language that you want to use like every day. And so one of the best things you can do is just to go ahead and have those conversations, if possible, you know, with somebody that's deaf, and you'll be able to have that feedback, and you'll also know kind of what you need to learn next. Sometimes we don't know what we want to learn until we don't know how to say what we want to say, right? So that can be really helpful. Oh, Felicia, my daughter said she wants to be a sign language interpreter when she grows up. That's awesome. Interpreting is definitely a field that is in need. There's definitely a shortage. And I did an interview with, I can't remember her name off the top of my head. It just popped out. But there's definitely a deficit of interpreters, particularly in rural areas. So if you're somebody that wants to really help out in the deaf community and is passionate about sign language and interpreting, you're going into a field that really needs it, and you can really do a lot of good there. And me and my wife are both professional interpreters. We've been doing it for quite some time, and it's a career that we changed to years ago, and we've never looked back. Previously, I was a civil engineer and taught off and on over the years as well. And Johnni, she's done managerial work and accounting and different things like that. But like, there's nothing quite like interpreting, and that is a really it's a very satisfying job to get into. Let's see here. That's cool. Jason says my dog knows cookie or treat. Suzanne says my dog understood. She was great, and I signed to my grandchildren. They're learning. My 4-year-old grandson argues with people on the number 3. No, that is a W. Yeah, I was watching a video by Rachel Coleman, and she has a deaf daughter. And one of the things that that was funny is how her daughter would ask, you know, why do hearing people say 1, 2, 1, 2, 6? And she's like, that's weird. Like, why do hearing people always say 1, 2, 6? You know, shouldn't it be 1, 2, 3? And it was at that moment that it's like that perspective is really different. And you know, she didn't know that, like, for hearing people, like this was number 3, not a W or not the number 6, right? This is great. Linda says that I watch the sign language videos most of the day to learn new words and phrases. Excellent. Taylor says the number of deaf people I know has exploded from none to 3 in a matter of weeks. Infinite growth there. Let's see here. Oh, that's great. Jessica saying that I just found out one of my family members cannot talk, and he's 3 years old. That's why I'm learning how to talk to my nephew. That's amazing. And family can be such a huge motivator to continue to learn sign. And again, it can be hard, right? It can be a real challenge. Oh, good, you're back.
Sorry.
But yeah, that was one of the reasons why we decided to learn ASL as well, is because of my wife's father was starting to lose his hearing. And he's hard of hearing now, and soon over the years he'll become fully deaf. And so we as an entire family decided that we're going to learn how to sign. And yeah, like when it gets hard, having a really important reason why you want to learn that language, that's going to help you continue to make that progress and kind of overcome any challenges that kind of get in your way.
Sorry. That was important. I had to take that call.
Okay, no problem.
How's it going? What do we got going
on? Okay. So far I've talked about the feelings of lack of progress and how it's important that you just realize that you are making progress. Also discussed briefly about maybe a lack of confidence and not being able to say what you want to say because you're having that perfectionism, and just kind of being okay with making mistakes to continue to make that progress and overcome that plateau.
Okay. How's the comments going?
I'm trying to keep up, but it's hard when you're by yourself. I don't know how some of these people.
This is why I'm not going to do it on my own after your surgery. No way. Okay, let's see. Do. Okay. I'm trying to like read through if there's any questions or
Oh, this is actually a really good technique. We've talked about this before. Monica is saying I sign words when I'm watching television, usually 3 to 6 letter words. It's good practice.
Yes, and that's a really good one too, because we tell people if you're watching TV or if you're listening to music, finger spell like words or things that you're hearing, or sign like practice interpreting. Just like okay, I'm gonna sign this, I'm gonna do that. Because that's going to really help with your, what's the word?
Just being able to like receptively take it in and expressively.
Yeah, but it's like, you'll have
lag time.
No, not so much with this, but I'm referring to being able to
process it.
To pull the.
Oh, like to remember the signs that you've been learning.
Yeah, there's a word for it, like cognitive
recall is one thing.
Something. Anyways, but for you to hear these words. And then your brain is processing it, and you're able to pull these signs that you have stored in your memory and to pull them up rapidly will help with that when it comes to conversation. And now you're like, okay, I want to say this. You're already practicing and pulling these things into these signs into your, you guys know what I'm trying to say, right? What is wrong with me? I can't formulate my words.
It goes from the brain to the hands.
Yeah,
and that can be
words are like all over the place today.
We have comprehension, recall.
Thank you, recall. It's a recall.
I said recall.
I know you said recall, but so did she. And I'm like, yes.
Marie, you always answer my question before I ask.
Let's see. What I feel like I'm in slow motion when I'm signing. I know it's not as bad as you think. A lot of people feel that way. Like they feel when they're signing, they're like doing it super slow. But it's not as slow as you think you are.
No.
Yeah. You're not going as slow as you think you are. It's just your brain is processing it and you feel like you're not moving as quickly, but you are. There's been times where I've had to give discourses in sign language, and I'll practice and practice and practice and practice and practice. And then when it comes time for me to give this discourse, I feel like I'm not going the way I should be. Like it's not as quick as it needs to be. Like I feel like sometimes I fumble. But they're always recorded, these discourses are. And so I'll go back and watch myself. And I'm like, oh, okay, it's not as bad as I thought in that moment. It's not as bad as I thought it was. And it's just us and how it's almost like an out-of-body experience. We feel like we're slow, but we're not. It's okay. How do you sign the words if, of, or, and, it, but, and, be? Fun. Okay, keep that up there. So if, there's a few ways to do if. If I've seen this one, if. It's very English and it's very old, but I had somebody do that to me once. He was like, if, and he was like being very specific with it. It was crazy. But yeah, if or if. Of, it's not used, but it would be finger spelled of, but it's not a sign or a word that's really used. Or is just or that is used quite a bit.
Sometimes they'll use this. This is usually signed for which, but sometimes they'll use this for or.
And slides. And now I know there's a way to sign it because we have to teach the kids that in school for reading.
You're probably thinking of at. And usually most programs will just teach them to fingerspell and.
Oh, okay.
But for like at, sometimes like for like an email address, at with the tail, or at with the fist, or at with this. Again, like don't use any of these signs because they're not ASL.
Don't use them in or you can. Or is one that can be used in conversation, but and so is if. But of, and, it, be, those signs aren't used in sign language in conversation. But is, but. It does have a sign. How do you do it?
A few. It used to be. I didn't like this one, but it used to be like I and T, and then it would go into your hand like.
See, that's how I do it. It.
Or some would do it, or others would just do I into the palm. Again, like don't get caught using those signs.
But it's just it's just there.
Okay. No signs for short words. That's kind of a good rule of thumb. Is that if it's like 1 or 2 letters, it's probably not signed or shouldn't be signed. Particularly just because ASL is such a visual language and it's an independent language from English, and so. If somebody is takes pride on the ASL side of the things, and know that sign language is an entire spectrum, right? There are versions of sign languages that are exact English, right? There's an entire category called manually coded English, MCE. And then as a subset of that, there are assigned exact Englishes. And I believe there's 2, or at least there used to be 2. There's one that is more commonly used than the other. But yeah, there's an entire spectrum out there. And then PSE is one that you'll see still commonly used today. It's kind of a happy medium between ASL and more English-based sign languages. And sign language is not universal either. Like there are several hundreds of various sign languages around the globe. ASL is sometimes used in other countries, but ASL can also be an acronym for other sign languages like Arabic Sign Language and Australian Sign Language. And then, of course, there's like French Sign Language, British Sign Language, and many others. So definitely know that sign language is so diverse, and not to get overwhelmed, but if you are going to try to really learn the language and be competent and be fluent and be conversant, then you really should try to dive into the deaf community as much as possible and learn from the deaf. And particularly, it's a little easier if you can learn from those in your local community, because that varies too. We live in California, and when we moved from Southern California to Central California, those 2 communities don't really sign the same. And so we had to make changes and adapt as well. And just a real quick side note is for Canadian Sign Language. They do use ASL, but again, they do have more regional signs that are Canadian specific. So just things to kind of keep in the back of your mind.
Do you raise your eyebrows when signing a question, or is it vice versa? So, what did you just do?
It was. There's a couple of them. So basically, if it's yes or no, it's up.
So yes or no. Wait.
Open-ended questions.
Yeah. I have to like do it. I can't just like tell you like, oh yeah, it's this. I have to like do it myself. So it's like yes or no, your eyebrows are up. The WH questions are down. Like what? And kind of think of it when you do it yourself, because you never go, what? I would never do that. That's weird. Well, I mean, I guess you would. What? But most of the time that's an English thing. What? It's a what? Who? Your eyebrows are down. Apparently I frown when I do it, but your eyebrows are down, but it's the yes or no's that go up. I'm still curious when it's appropriate to use the
QM wig.
I don't know what that means. I have no idea what that means. Could you let me know?
Let's see here.
Oh, see, look, man, it's like,
oh,
whoa.
I see the question that you were referring to earlier.
What is the difference between C and PSE? Okay, so CSEE is signed exact English. Now, and they will sign the and, the is, the was, the all
prefixes
those
and suffixes.
the ing, they sign.
Shop-ing.
Yeah, shop-ing, they sign all that. Where PSE, that's
question mark.
ASL signs in English grammar.
Oh. QM question mark wiggle, I'm assuming.
This one, like that one. Sorry, but that, so PSE is just pigeon. See, I always say pigeon, but it's pigeon.
PIGINED.
Pigeoned sign language.
Pigeon sign.
Anyways, but it's ASL and English grammar, which it typically is where a lot of people fall, because it's still sign language. It just carries more of an English grammar to it instead of an ASL grammar. Question mark wiggle finger. This one, yeah. Yeah, okay. So this, I use this one a lot, but this is an emphasis. So if I'm asking a question, especially if it's an important question, I'll go, for example, my daughter, if I'm signing her, did you go outside? That is something, it's an emphasis on, it's like stating, like, I'm going to, first off, I'm going to ask you a question, and then I'm going to really emphasize that question to you. It's a wiggle. It's like that question mark's like, but yeah, that's kind of what that's used for. I use it a lot, honestly, especially when I'm interpreting and like a question is asked. You know, they're like, oh, did you do da-da-da-da-da? I'm like, did you do da-da-da-da? And it just kind of helps emphasize that was a question that was asked at the end instead of just a statement. When you're signing, you can be like, so what do you think? But you can use it pretty much anywhere. I use it for an added emphasis.
Yeah. I want to tackle this one real quick. Can you explain deaf bluntness, please?
Okay. So if you think about it, sign language is very direct language. You can't really fluff up sign language. You can't make it all pretty. It's just, it is what it is. And so a lot of time with the deaf, that's just, it's not rude. It's not anything like that. It's just, I have a question and, okay, baby, I have a question and it's just very direct and I want a very direct answer back. And it is a learning curve, especially, hey, stop. If you're coming from a hearing culture where we like to beat around the bush with things, like, I don't really want to tell you this, so I'm going to say it in a nicer way. In sign language, we don't really have that option. It's like, there's really no way for me to ask this question to you, so I'm just going to have to ask it. And so a lot of time, the deaf are just blunt. Paige, are just blunt, but it's not done to be disrespectful or rude. It's just communicating and getting their point across and it just being clear.
Just like a quick example, like normally, like in hearing culture, we'll be a little more like hesitant to like provide information.
Oh, yeah.
But like one example is like, let's say somebody just like bought a new car, and like, you know, between like two deaf friends, it'd be like, hey, how much did that car cost you? Oh, how much a month? What was the interest rate? And so like, it's not that kind of information for like hearing people, particularly in like the United States, where like that's private information, right? But you know, deaf things be a little more open, or like, hey, did you like put on some weight? You know, it's a little more direct, and you know, for us that might be a kind of hard thing to change and adapt to. But it's something not to be offended so much by. It's just blunt, right? It's, you know, beating around the bush.
Yeah, and it's just. It's done out of genuine curiosity, keeping that, because if you think of it this way too, a lot of times, well, for many years, the deaf were kind of closed off from the world. So when they ask a question, it's out of genuine, like, knowledge. They want to know, to have this knowledge. So like you said, between two deaf friends, how much did you buy your car? What was the percentage rate? It's not because, oh, I'm curious, like, ooh, what are you doing? Like, it's more like, hey, I'm curious, what's up with that? Can you explain it to me? type of thing. That's kind of what it is. I know it's like a really long answer to a question, but there's just a lot of aspects to it.
I want to tackle this one because it kind of leads into what we're talking about tonight as far as like overcoming various challenges. So Courtney is asking, how do you stay motivated when learning how to sign? I'm a senior in high school. I use my free time for teaching myself before I start nursing school. How do I manage my time to learn when busy?
So for you, I'm going to tell you it's all about setting up your priorities. First of all, creating a schedule. You're going to want to prioritize what's the most important to you. Why are you learning sign language? And is it the most important thing for you at this moment? If it's career-based and that's why you're learning sign language, Paige. What? And if it's career-based and you're learning it specifically for work, then you would probably put a lot of priority on your learning sign language. If it's a secondary thing, then I would have what's the most important, and then I would add sign language a little lower. As long as you're learning something every day, it doesn't have to be a lot. It doesn't have to be this overwhelming amount, but just 5 minutes, 10 minutes a day, just something to keep it going so you don't forget. That's going to help you. That's going to really keep you going with your learning. You might not learn as quickly as you want to by doing it that way, but like for you, you're wanting to be a nurse, you're going into nursing school. That's a really big priority and a huge time commitment, and it's to be commended, especially right now. There's a need for that. But there's also a need for nurses who can communicate in sign language too. So by continuing to learn, like I said, you probably won't make the progress that you're wanting to make in the language because you have something else that's taking that priority, but that's okay. But as long as you keep learning sign language and just keep it there, you're going to continue to learn it, but you don't have to allow it to be this overwhelming task for you. Just keep it fun, keep it light, and just, that's kind of.
One book I would actually recommend is called Essentialism.
We have that.
And not a paper copy. It was one that I borrowed from the library back when you could go visit the libraries in person. But it's a really good book if you're a busy person and you have a lot to do. Basically, just to kind of sum it up really quick, is like what she was saying, prioritize, right? And if you have a lot to do, you kind of have to reassess what is important to you and the skill of being able to say no to things. And so oftentimes we fall into the trap of just saying yes to everything that comes our way. And so if you really have something that's important to you and something that you really need to get done, you kind of have to reassess. And if you're going to say yes to something, you need to figure out what you're going to be saying no to. And that can be a really hard thing to do at first, but it can be really liberating, and it can really free up a ton of time to be able to achieve the things that you want. And in this case, if you want to, learn sign language, then you might have to take a step back a little bit and reassess and think, what if I'm going to give sign language priority? What are some of the smaller things that I can say no to?
Sorry, I'm reading his comments, and where did it go? There it is. That one. I like this one because it's a fun question. How do the deaf keep other deaf people from seeing their conversations? Is it possible to have private conversation? Okay. The reason why I picked this is because you might come across this. Yes, there is a way to have a private conversation in sign language, and I'll tell you, because when I have two deaf students in the same classroom, they'll do it. They'll try to, from the interpreter, they're like, and they'll sign down below. So typically what you'll see is if they don't want someone to know, if they're talking, they'll do this. And they'll turn their back to whoever they don't want to see, and then they'll sign like this. So. Mama. Or if you're sitting down and they're having a conversation, they'll sign with their hands lower, almost like under the table, and they'll sign that way. So that way not everybody can look. Or if you can't do that, there's a bunch of people around, they'll sign closer to their bodies. Like, get down, please. They'll sign closer to their bodies and more in a very small box to keep from this
everybody okay?
Obvious, like, hey, look at me, I'm over here signing. They'll be like, okay, we're going to talk about this in private, and they're going to sign real small. So if you see that, that's what they're doing. It's a private conversation. They're trying to keep it discreet. So, but yeah. Is it rude to watch two deaf people talking to each other, or is that considered eavesdropping or eyes dropping?
Yeah, that could be a touchy subject. There's definitely different perspectives and opinions on that.
Yeah, I mean,
so I'm not gonna go ahead and like
get down. You wanna?
Depends on the person.
Yeah. It kind of depends, like how Chris said. Like some people are like, "Oh no, that's not rude. It's totally fine," and other people are like, "Oh, that is rude." You know, you wouldn't want somebody to be like, "Well, what are you talking about over there?" So it just kind of depends on your group. Like Chris said, it's kind of a touchy subject, one I probably won't play with because it could be, yeah. Do you have to be super intelligent to learn sign? No. And I'll tell you, sign language is one of the easiest languages to learn. Well, sign language is one of the easiest languages to learn. And I say that because you don't have to read it and you don't have to write it like all the other languages in the world. You just have to take it in. And a lot of it's gestures. And like I tell people, when in doubt, act it out. Because I think I've said this before. I knew somebody who was from Thailand who didn't know ASL. He knew Thai sign. I knew ASL, but I don't know Thai sign. But we were able to, Thai, yeah. Mm-hmm. But we were able to communicate because we were gesturing and we acted it out. He was deaf, by the way. And we were able to get our point across to each other. He was amazing. He could like act out anything. And I'd be like, oh, I totally get you, man. I get it. And same with me. I'm like, oh, okay, here we go. And so it's a lot of gestures. And it is, once you teach your brain to relax, you'll see it's actually a really easy language to learn. It's not as complicated or intimidating as it might feel. I have learned, okay, let me rephrase that. I have attempted to learn other languages outside of ASL. Spanish was one of them. It's a work in progress still. But a fun one that we're learning just for recreational, which I thought I would never, ever do in my life. I swore against it. No, was to learn Chinese. I know, right? Oh. But what got me into it was I found on YouTube this TV series. It's called General's Lady, and it's actually you can get the app of like different Japanese, Chinese, Korean, like their shows, but they have English subtitles. And so I got totally into this TV show, General's Lady. They're speaking Chinese. I don't understand, but I'm reading the subtitles, and you start to learn things. And so I'm like, whoop, I got him into it because he's like, you're such a dork. He's like, why are you watching that? I'm like, it's super cool. It's like totally, the story's like all crazy, and you're like, you can't help but get into it. So I got him into it, and he's like, huh. So we have that app.
Is it Viki? Viki?
Oh, that app on
the Roku?
On the Roku, I think so. But what is that app that we have? Duolingo. We have Duolingo.
Yeah, that.
And we started learning Chinese that way. Now that's, but it's, after trying these different languages, he's tried to learn all these other languages too, but we always go back to sign language because it's we feel it's a very easy language to learn. And a lot of it's just acting out some things. So it's okay. I don't want you to feel like discouraged, like, you know, you have to be this like super intelligent person. You have to have this type of personality to be able to do it. Anybody can learn it. As long as you have the right mindset and you're motivated, you'll be fine. Vicky, yes. See, somebody knows. Yeah. Like this.
Yeah. And my daughter yells at me when I forget signs she taught me. It's fine. There's one in every family.
Hey, I mean, yeah. But
yeah, let's go ahead and tackle Yeah, you know what? Let me comment on this really quick. I tried Spanish in school, but had little to no interest. And that goes a long ways. And this is kind of goes into the plateau thing too, right? Like we reach a certain point where it might not be as fun as it used to, or it might not be as engaging as we used to. And the reason why so many people don't learn the languages that they're trying to learn is because they just don't find it interesting enough. Or like even just with reading, right? Like if you want to read more books, you need to find more interesting books for yourself.
That's a true statement.
And so like
I hate reading.
For like just for Spanish, like that was my thing too. Like I took Spanish in high school, and you know, you learned the common phrases like, you know, hola, ¿cómo está? And you learned the colors amarillo and naranja, and you know, the stuff like that, orange and black. But like you learn the basics, right? But like you never become fluent enough to have conversations, and that was my biggest struggle. But then like years later, like I developed a genuine interest in learning it. And so like at that point I went to South America, to that country of Paraguay, and I learned more in 1 month there because I was interested and I was immersed in it, and you know, all the things, all the language learning things, right? And I ended up learning more in a month there than I did for years in the States. 1, interest; 2, immersion; you know, 3, the motivation, and just things like that. And so if you want to learn a new language, you kind of have to make it interesting and to want to do it, right?
Have we done the giveaway yet?
No, not yet.
Okay, we need to do that.
Okay. Let me check over here. We're at 36 likes, so just one. We'll just do one giveaway. 36
likes, yeah. So darn close to the 50, and then we would have gotten the second giveaway. But
let's see here. I recognize Taylor won last week. Let's see here. I'll tell you. Why don't you?
Okay, ready?
You mind talking about novelty real quick, and then
novelty?
Yeah. Because the third point that I never got around to tonight about like kind of
something I don't understand.
Okay, I can talk about it, and then you can.
Yeah, let me do this. Okay. Like, tell me we talk about something I don't know.
Really quick. Ketchy asked, there are 2 finger spellings for the letter M. I think I've seen them different ways. So typically there's the tight M, the loose M, and the straight M, and you'll see all 3 of those in different ways. But yeah, that third one is, if you want to really try to overcome that plateau, that feeling of I'm not making progress anymore, is one of the things that really prevents us from making progress is that we kind of get bored with it, right? Maybe we started out watching YouTube videos, and that's been really successful for us for a few months, maybe a few years, but at some point, you know, it kind of wears off on us, and like the novelty of it wears off, and it's not fun anymore, right? And you know, kind of like the pandemic, like, oh yeah, like working from home is kind of fun for like a week or two, and then you know, 9 months later it's worn off, right? But basically try to inject a little novelty into the process, and maybe experiment a little bit. If you've gotten bored of YouTube, try taking a class. If classes aren't working, try reaching out to deaf ones on Instagram or TikTok or other social media platforms. If that isn't interesting for you, you know, try to find content that really makes it exciting for you. Maybe try playing different sign language games. Try the handshake game, and if you're with a friend, or maybe you have a Zoom practice group or whatever, you know, pick a handshake and see how many signs you can come up with of that handshake. And if you're the last person that can come up with a sign, you win and move on to the next round and choose a new handshake. And there's lots of different like sign language games, and maybe you like to read books, and just continually experiment and try to find something that really gets you excited, and find something that works for you. Okay, it looks like you found ourselves a winner.
Okay. And they're in the chat. No. Okay, so Courtney Miller.
Right there.
There you are. Okay, so first off, let us know if you're still here. And then as soon as this is done, okay, let me.
Oh, it's under banners.
If you can send an email to Chris. So send Chris an email, and then he'll get you all set up with
for the 30-day
Thank you.
crash course.
I'm like, somebody help me. My brain tonight, I swear.
Yeah, I totally forgot, but once the live stream's finished, I'll go ahead and put a link to it. If you go to the website, aslbasics.com, you can learn more about that 30-day course.
Are you here, Courtney?
Hopefully.
I'm like, I don't.
We have a lot of congratulations.
Yeah, I know. Barb was asking, what is the price of the 30-day challenge?
So that one you can actually access a few different ways. We can get it through YouTube on the membership. So I have a tier called Courses. And if you sign up for that tier, it'll unlock the 30-day crash course, the 7-day ASL bootcamp, and the 7-day challenge. And so that's just $10. And then if you go to Patreon, same thing. We have the 3 different tiers: support, VIP, and courses. And then the third way is actually a way you can kind of get it for free on the website. We have a membership called Beyond the Basics, and you can sign up for a free trial for 7 days and cancel it before the 7 days is over if you just kind of want to see if it's something for you. And yeah, go to the website at aslbasics.com, and you can learn more about all those programs.
I don't see her.
I don't see her
I'm
either.
like, oh, that's gonna make me sad. Okay, well.
All right. I like ASL YouTube Kids Picture Box.
I know. I'm like, I'll leave it open, Courtney, for another 60 seconds for you to let us know that you're still here. Otherwise, we're gonna have to pick someone new. I hate doing that. It's so sad.
I know. Well, last week somebody won the workshop.
I know, and they couldn't make it. That was sad too. I'm like, oh my god. Jelly.
Okay. That's okay. You can just give it to me.
Okay. Well, then I have to do this all over again. I have to do a new person. Okay.
Okay. So go ahead and go through that. And if you have any quick questions, we're looks like we got 3 minutes until we hit the hour mark. I really want to hit that hour mark. Sometimes we can go over time. If you've been with us this entire time, thank you so much for sticking around. And we really do enjoy getting a chance to talk with all of you and answer your questions. And it can be a challenge for sure. And I know we only touched on one aspect of one of the things that can be challenging for many of us, learning a new language. And perhaps next week, next week we're not doing it, but on the 30th, let me know what you would like us to cover, because there are a lot of different challenges, right? Are you somebody that really has a hard time maybe getting your foot in the door with the deaf community in your area? Or are you having a hard time finding others to practice with? Do you have a hard time remembering everything that you learn? Do you find it hard to stay motivated? Do you find it hard to have enough time? Do you have a hard time with grammar? Or do you have, like, what is really difficult for you? And go ahead and let us know in the comments really quick. And I can go ahead and take note of that, and we can cover that in 2 weeks when we go live again. Did you pick anyone?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead and... nice.
I hope you're here, Monica.
Monica, if you are here, let us know.
Okay. Somebody has asked, like, okay, really curious. Are open-ended and yes or no questions the only 2 times in which you need to move your eyebrows?
Unless you do like...
Which is why he has the sign name that he has. Okay, wait, hold on.
Yeah, normally, like, when it's... Normally, the facial expressions are pretty natural. But, like, the rule for eyebrows up, eyebrows down, it usually just applies for open-ended questions or closed-ended questions.
I'm going to be so sad if she's not here either. Oh, my God. That would be
She
horrible.
probably thought, like, oh, I didn't win. She just, like, left.
Oh, wait. Where can I get more references about ASL grammar? Huh? Oh, yay, Monica! Okay, good. Yay. Okay,
So, Monica, if you're here, go ahead and send me an email at chris@aslbasics.com. Let me know that you won the 30-day crash course, and I'll go ahead and set you up. Really quick, congrats. Where is it? Oh, references about ASL grammar at lifeprint.com. Bill Vickers has a really great article that covers ASL grammar. Let's see here. More congrats. It's hard recognizing signs sometimes, like I will know it, but then if I see someone else sign it, I will completely forget. Totally normal, happens to all of us. Don't worry about it. It does get better over time. And okay, that's all the time we have for tonight. And if we didn't get around to answering your question, I'm really sorry. We do try really hard to get to everybody. We'll be going live again, not next week, but in 2 weeks, on December 30th. Yep. Same time, Wednesday at 5:45 Pacific time. We will be holding a Zoom, not next week.
No, not next week.
The 30th, we will hold a Zoom practice session.
The 6th, we will too. I will, not him. But we won't be going live that day because there's no way I can do this for by myself. I'm too spazzy. So, okay. All right, you guys. Well, it was good. I'm not seeing you all, but I see your comments. I see you. I see you guys. You're there. So we'll see you guys not next week, but in 2 weeks on the 30th. Be safe. Enjoy I know everybody's going on vacations. I know you guys are off of school or work and everything. So enjoy your time off. Be safe. And we will see you guys on the 30th. All right. Bye, guys.